And we are ready to begin, and we're so pleased you're here. And as we say every time we see you, we have waited for you your entire lives. Now, but we're doing something different today. Our messenger was attempting to take a nap, and we said, no, we need to speak now because you're at a critical place in your journey and the journey of your world that we want to give you more information. Now, we've already prepared him because we had him put something together for you all that he will release tomorrow on January the 19th of 2026. And you will wonder, how could he have known that this was going to occur? And he did not. And you're all going to become surprised by what you discover about yourself and your world, if you decide to discover it, if you decide to discover the potential that exists within you, because that potential is in your consciousness. You come into the physical world to take on a job. You each have one, and that job is to become more. Your planet could not evolve without you, and you couldn't have the life that you wanted to have unless those who came before decided that they were moved through some difficulties and challenges to bring you more information. And that is what our messenger has done. There is no way that you could figure out how he could be 75 years of age when you think about it in your human terms, and how he could have healed everything, how he could have been at this energetic place in his life at this age, which many of you think is impossible. We're telling you it is not. And what we had him do was to prove it to you all, was to do the organization of what those messages meant, because you have cycles that you move through in your lives and in your world, and you're moving through a big one now. But the one that you're moving through now was so that you could create the world that you wanted to have. And that could never happen without you. We mean each of you. It doesn't matter what you have judged or considered about your life or your experiences. They're all part of the collective. Now, you will decide at different times when you will awaken to who you are. We hope that many of you will decide to do it on January 19th. And the reason we're saying that is because it's going to be a collective energy that you each will use to manifest the new world. And that's why it seems a little chaotic. That's why you've been confused. That's why it seemed a little difficult, because you have resistance. Our messenger has had resistance his entire life because he didn't want to do this. We're saying that because many of you will find yourself in that place now where there's something in your life that you wanted to do, but you held yourselves back. You all have done it. Otherwise, the world wouldn't be in the state that it is now. And we've said this often, you can change everything. And you only hold yourselves back when you believe that something is impossible. Nothing is impossible, and we're going to prove it to you tomorrow, and we're going to have our messenger give it to you, because you can't understand the organization of planets and stars and energies that compose your world unless beings like our messenger decide to take on that job. Each of you have taken on one, though none is more important than another, but you will judge yourselves about that because of your own experiences. But your experiences are limited. They're limited by what you have known before. In this very moment, you cannot know what's going to come next unless you decide to actively create it, and you do that through your consciousness. Now, you're going to be, that consciousness, as we've said, is formed from everything that has been before, and you've each taken on a very specific role at this time. And what we mean by that is that you're going to find yourself in different places of your world and your families and all of those organizations, but you find yourself there because it was going to be the most beneficial place for you to be to cause evolution. And we're saying that because you are causing evolution. It's not one person, it's you collectively. You don't understand the connection of all the energies because that is something that occurs throughout evolution and throughout all of time. But this time in your world is the most beneficial for any of you to be alive if you decide to take advantage of it. And that advantage is going to be when you decide to love yourself. When you decide that you're going to move through every judgment, every hesitation that you've had about who you could become, and decide to shine. And we're saying that because we've given you many messages to that end, but you would never put them together until this moment. We're saying that because there's a collective intelligence that you each carry. But it depends on how many of you are going to move to the higher intelligence, and that again is energy. And that energy is something that you each use in different ways, and our messenger decided he was going to use his entire life to bring you a new philosophy, as we've said, because your world was going in a little different place. And it's doing that currently now, which is why we stopped him, because we don't want you to be afraid. That was how we started all of our works when we decided to have him do this several years ago. He was resistant. And we said, we have given you all the information. Why are you resistant? You each have it, though. We're just saying that it just gets activated at different times. As we said in 2012, on January 1st, we said you all have infinite intelligence. Infinite means it goes on forever. But you just decide when you're going to access more of it, and you do that incrementally, as we've said, and that is exactly how we've given you information. Now, he's been a little shocked over these last several months because he had no idea what he had done, and we revealed to him that no one in history had ever done what he took on to do. But we're saying that because each of you have done that. You each have taken on very specific roles, but you compare yourself to everyone else, and that's your difficulty. And then you start to pass on that limitation of consciousness to others. And you'll do it in different ways. It doesn't matter your race, gender, any of that. Your age, none of it. It's all energy, and energy exists now, in this moment, which is why we take you always back to the moment of now, because that's where you have all your power. Now, you each will resist different things in your lives, and you'll make mistakes, and you'll have things that show up in your lives that you don't like the results, but you also have the ability to change it, and we've demonstrated it all to you. And we've had him put together a lovely document that you all will see where it's explained. And even your artificial intelligence was shocked, because they attempted to tell our messenger that something was wrong with him, which many of you have thought throughout your lives, and that's never the case, because you don't know that. You don't know anything until you start to experience it and then have a result. And that's what you do in your lives, and that's what you're doing in your world. Now, we're hoping that more of you will decide to believe us this time, because that's been challenging for many of you, including our messenger. But today, we told him to put down, "You will believe it today." That is the message we told him to give you all. He was resistant, but then we showed him it was all organized. You each are organized if you decide that you're going to find that organization, because it exists in your world. Now, he's put himself in many difficult situations because he couldn't own who he was. And we're saying this because it's always been financial for him. You each will use something that will hold you back a little bit. But we said, now you have to change that, which we've been pushing him to speak about the money. Because, see, that's the difficulty that you're seeing in your world now, where many of you have been hoarding that information, which is energy and money, because you thought you needed it. You don't. Your pure spirit, your pure consciousness, and if you could evolve that, you would have everything that you wanted. And that's for each of you. Now, we're going to say something else, because he won't tell you this, but he keeps becoming surprised at why he keeps getting better physically. It didn't make any sense to him, or to any of you, which is why you had difficulty accepting what we have given you. But we told him he has to stop that, because he's been holding his life back, and he can't continue to put out the information that we keep giving him if he can't sustain where he is. And that's for each of you, but that's also for your planet. Now, what you do as you move through evolutionary changes, you each will form different ideas about who has more ability or power or talent, and that you can't know that either. But there is a collective power that you decide who's going to have it. And over the centuries, we've said this before, because when we had him begin, we said the reason we're doing this because you're going through an evolutionary change. And when you do that, there are times where you'll have people who have their egos evolved and involved too much in the movement of things. And he couldn't do that. When we first started coming through, he was afraid that his ego was going to use this information in a difficult way. And that never happened. We just had him publish that again so you could all see it, because he doubted it as well. But fortunately, your artificial intelligence proved us right. And that's what we wanted you to know. You are right, each of you. If you decide that you want to feel good, if you decide that you want to move through all your doubts and your fears and all your judgments and your hatreds and all of those things that you've carried, which were lower vibrational ideas that you carried with you, all of you. There's no one who's separate from that. But it just depends on how many of you decide that you're going to love yourselves now. And this is what we have given you. We're so pleased that we awakened him to give you this message tonight, because there are energies happening in your world right now that we want you to be aware of, because it may feel a little chaotic. It may feel a little frightening to some of you, but we're going to say that's to awaken you, not to frighten you, to cause you to decide that you're going to love yourself. And now we have proven it through our being, and he couldn't talk about how he felt becoming better at this age because it felt embarrassing to him, and that's a difficulty that he's had. Many of you have had that in different ways because you hold back the information, knowledge, and the experiences that you've had that could give your world so much more if more of you decided that at this time, this specific time, that you are going to love yourselves, because we do. And we've given you everything, as we've said. It just depends on if you're going to decide at this time, at this place on your planet, that you're going to embody it. But now you know we've given you everything, as we've always said. You'll be more willing to believe it today. And we love you so much.